Okay. First things first. Can we talk about how ridiculous this multiple Lokis on the same timeline thing really is? I mean, yeah, I'm that version of you who decided to eat that chocolate Oreo and peanut butter funnel cake that was double fried. Best decision I ever made. I do remember that. Yeah, I really wanted that. I. And I'm that version of you who decided to get that really awesome deep dish Chicago crust pizza with all that cheese and meat and more cheese, and I knew those were gonna be delicious. Oh, time, thou art a cruel mistress. Okay, so I'm gonna combine the last 3 episodes here of Loki for a couple of reasons. One, life. Sometimes life just kind of gets in the way and you have to handle things, that come up. You can't really just kind of let them slide. So I had to kind of handle those life things the last couple of weeks. The second reason is I'm not all that sure there was really that much that happened, honestly, in those last like episodes like 4 and 5 especially. Like, yeah, plot happened, obviously, but I mean like big things. I don't know. I'm going to talk a little bit about that as we get further along in the episode here. I mean, overall, I thought this series was fine. It was good. Yeah. Now, I will say this though. Tell me in the comments below if there's anyone out there who agrees with what I'm about to say. It just seems like each of the 3 Disney Plus Marvel series that we've had so far, WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and now Loki, it seems to me like they always start out as like one genre, and they're even marketed as that genre. And then they just kind of like switch. And it's not even like, I don't know, it's not even subtle, right? Like it's like a really kind of like light switch. Like, nah, we're done with that. So, for example, WandaVision. If you remember way back when they were just dropping trailers on us and stuff like that, WandaVision was kind of billed as this, almost kind of like this psychological thriller idea. But was it that really after like the first episode or two? I mean, you got the sense after the first episode that it could probably still maintain that genre of psychological thriller. But by like the end of episode 2 and certainly by episode 3, you were like, okay, this is not a psychological thriller, honestly. Nope. And then think of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That one was billed as this kind of buddy cop movie from the 80s. And the first episode, I even talked about it in my Falcon and the Winter Soldier reaction video. Even the first episode was kind of felt like that. It felt like Eddie Murphy and Nick Nolte in 48 Hours kind of thing. And then it became really serious, really brooding, dark, like with a very strong public service message. And that's fine. But it's not what it was billed as. Now we get to Loki. And I kind of feel the same thing. I kind of feel like it was billed as this almost like punk Sherlock Holmes or interesting kind of Sherlock Holmes story. And the first episode kind of led you down that pathway, right? We're going to go hunt down this variant Loki. And it was very interesting. It had this detective kind of noir element to it. And then it just stopped. So, for one thing, tell me, am I crazy? Am I the only one who thinks that this is like a pattern now? And my guess is they could probably do this at least one more time, maybe 2, before the vast majority of audiences are going to start to feel like they're not getting what they've been billed as being, right? That these, I think you could do it definitely one more time. And then I think if you try to push it, this kind of genre switch, this in another series after that, I think people are going to start to like catch the drift and maybe even feel a little bit slighted by this. Okay, so we're going to have to address our discussion here, our running discussion of determinism versus free will. I think I'll give Loki, the series, the writers, I'll give them a lot of credit because I do think that they stuck to it and really tried to explore, at least for a while, they tried to explore this really difficult concept of trying to understand what do we do in a predetermined world, right? If determinism reigns and we have no free will, not even really the illusion of free will, what does life become? And you might recall when I talked about this in one of the earlier episodes, maybe one or two, I think I talked about it here. I hope so. If not, I talked about it with a friend then or something. My issue is, or my question was always, how would the larger masses? It's one thing for someone like a public intellect like Sam Harris to say, I'm 100% a determinist. That's fine, great. He makes a strong argument. But when you apply determinism to the masses of people, I'm not sure that that's something that would be good for the entire human race. I'm not sure what a pure deterministic human race actually looks like or how it acts, how it attempts to progress forward. And I got a little bit of a sense of that here to a degree. At the TVA, they were pretty much on board with this idea of the timekeeper's, sense of determinism. But as soon as they got an idea that they could have free will, for example, Mobius, he kind of became excited about it and sought it out. But I'm not sure if he really believes it or not. Does Mobius really believe that he has free will, or is he just living comfortably in his own kind of illusion of it? I did think it was interesting when all the Lokis were together and our Loki said, we're survivors. That's what we are. Because there is a kind of element of determinism there as well. We are always determined to survive, to be survivors in some way. And that creates a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy to a degree, right? What it does is it will always trap Lokis to doing just enough to survive, because that's their only goal, to survive, never to actually conquer or try to win. I mean, it runs into that element of self-fulfilling prophecy where it made a lot of sense when this series had all of those Lokis together and their entire goal was just to survive. I thought that was actually a really smart piece of writing there. I also thought it was really interesting that the more our Loki, the more his affections grew for Sylvie, the more he needed to believe in free will, because he needed to overcome his, the distrust that he even has in himself. And he needs to be able to build up a kind of trustworthy persona. It's one of the most beautiful lines in the entire series is toward the end when Sylvie and Loki are in the chambers of He Who Remains. I keep wanting to say Voldemort's, like, He Who Shall Remain Nameless. Am I the only one who kept wanting to, I'm telling you, I know you're out there. I know someone else wanted to do that too. When Sylvie and Loki were in the chambers of He Who Remains, and Loki said, "You can't trust, and I can't be trusted." What a beautiful Shakespearean sentiment there. I loved it. I thought that was a fantastic moment. However, I do think, and I do have a couple of couple of gripes with it here, with the series. I do wish that they would have just ended it right there. In other words, that the two end up as kind of combatants in the end because she can't trust and he can't be trusted. It would have been a beautiful ending for this series, for Loki to kind of lose here to Sylvie. And then the reason why that would have been really good for us is it would have left tension in us, not them. The way they ended this series leaves tension with the characters. But there's no tension on our end, not really. Had they ended it right there, after he says that beautiful line, we would have known that he clearly must be really upset with her, but that he still clearly cares about her. And then we would want to know which is going to win out there, his caring for her or his anger at what she did. Now, I want to address three characters a little bit here. I want to address Sylvie, He Who Remains, and then Loki a little bit more. I'm going to start with Sylvie here. And I thought her character was fine. I mean, it certainly served its purpose well, and the acting was largely okay. Again, toward the beginning, I thought there was a little lack of chemistry, actually, but it was fine. I liked the way she started to ease up more. I thought it seemed more organic, and the chemistry was a lot better by like episode 5, I think, really. I also think it was really enjoyable to see her growing need to trust our Loki. I thought that was engaging and really enjoyable as well. But I can't help but get this feeling like that character could have had even more depth, and they just didn't write it. You know, like they kept alluding to her story, her difficult story, but they didn't really do enough, I think. They didn't do enough to address just how difficult that story really was. They gave us flashes, and she certainly seemed upset, but that wasn't enough for me. It just kind of felt like, give me a little bit more here on her, honestly. I thought He Who Remains was a really interesting character, and I enjoyed the way that he discussed time in a very kind of flippant but exciting manner. I thought it was really fascinating, and I definitely got the sense that when they passed over, I forgot what he called it, they passed over this certain region in the time space continuum. No, that's wrong. That's completely wrong. When they passed through, though, the moment when he could no longer read the future, I thought that was a wonderful scene in just how excited he was to be in this space where he could no longer tell what was going to happen. And yet, there's a little bit of a philosophical issue there to a degree, right? Because his excitement has to inevitably be ruined anyway. And he kind of admits to this because it doesn't really matter. He kind of knew that he was going to end up coming back anyway, or at least some kind of version of himself, I guess. And I thought it was I'll say it this way. I thought it was an interesting enough conversation that I wished they would have gotten rid of episode 4. I do. I don't think 4 was 100% necessary, not all of it. I wish they would have gotten rid of episode 4, and I wish that Loki and Sylvie could have gotten to the Castle of Illusion. No, that's from Mickey Mouse, the game. I don't remember what it's called, the castle there, right? He Who Shall Remain in the castle. I thought that they should have arrived at that castle sooner, and even though a lot of people find, I think, dialogue to be boring, I would have loved to have had just deep dialogue between them. I was dying for some more dialogue there, quite honestly. I was fascinated by the whole philosophy around him. Now, as for the man himself, Loki, I'm a little bit torn here, quite honestly, because I really loved seeing the Asgardian grandeur Loki come back in the first episode, right? This idea of I treat myself as a god kind of thing. And he kind of goes downhill into, I don't know, he becomes so soft. and he kind of stays there for the remainder of the series. And again, it just points out that moment in the chamber of He Who Remains, when Loki makes the decision that he has to, kind of stop Sylvie. That right there is your opportunity to bring that Asgardian grandeur back and give it back to him so that he has some sense of agency, some sense of power. And I got very excited because when Sylvie sends Loki through that, what is it called, the 10 something portal thing, when he ends up back at the TVA, there's this moment where you get a close-up of his face, and it looks like Loki is gonna snap and get angry. And I thought, yes, this is it. This is the trickster god. He's coming back. And instead, no, he just kind of runs rather awkwardly back to Mobius and the other the other TVA squad. I forgot what they're called already. And he kind of gets soft again. And that just bothers me. Like, what exactly is Loki right now? I kind of wanted a little more power there, to be honest with you. But maybe I'm alone on that too. Let me know what you think. I just wish they could have ended it with him having a little more agency, a little more power for us to look forward to in the second season. So overall, I'm fine with season 1. I mean, I think it could have ended a little bit better. I think it could have been written a little tighter, but at the same time, I gotta give the writers a lot of credit here. It's not easy to write complicated storylines that involve determinism versus free will and stuff like that. It's not easy. It really can be kind of difficult. You got to keep everything in order. And I still thought at the end of the day that it was entertainment, and I enjoyed the Loki character. I love the Loki character. Tom Hiddleston does a great job as Loki, and I enjoy Owen Wilson as well. So I'm still going to be watching season 2 as well, and looking forward to it.